November, the month of Thanksgiving, a holiday that celebrates the Mayflower, turkey, and friendly pilgrims and Native Americans. For many modern Americans, it means sitting back and watching football, cooking turkey, seeing giant Thanksgiving Day themed parade balloons, and of course, celebrating with friends and family. The Thanksgiving holiday as we know it was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln back in 1863. In the midst of the gruesome American Civil War, he proclaimed a national day of thanks on the last Thursday of November. Now we celebrate Thanksgiving every fourth Thursday of November. But to really understand the history of Thanksgiving, we need to go back to the 1600s, to England. In England back in those days, you had to attend the state-sponsored Church of England every Sunday. If you missed church or tried to form your own church, you could be fined, imprisoned, or even killed. A group of people, now known as the Pilgrims, protested the Church of England and formed their own congregation. Out of fear of punishment, they escaped England around 1607 for the Netherlands, where they could worship freely. However, after spending over a decade in the Netherlands, the group started to realize they were losing their language and culture. They protested the Church of England, but they were still English at heart. So, they decided it was best to leave the Netherlands and start over in America. A group of pilgrims sailed back to Plymouth, England, to prepare for a journey to the New World. They picked up a few more passengers in England, and notable names like William Bradford of the Pilgrims and military man Miles Standish headed for North America. You might know that they made the journey on a ship called the Mayflower, but the Pilgrims and their new passengers were supposed to use a second ship as well, named the Speedwell. Unfortunately, it did not, in fact, speed well, and had to be left at the Plymouth port. So all of the 102 passengers were packed aboard the Mayflower. The voyage was supposed to land near the Hudson River, named for explorer Henry Hudson, and the route wasn't easy. It was a similar route taken by the future doomed Titanic. The Mayflower was thrown off course by bad weather, and eventually, after over 2 months at sea, land was sighted in what is now modern-day Massachusetts. Having been blown off course and landing in a new world, some passengers began to utter some mutinous sentiments. Fearing the group could break out into lawlessness, William Bradford quickly drafted the Mayflower Compact, which was signed by nearly all the adult male passengers on the ship. It laid out the laws of the new Plymouth colony. This document was the first self-governing document ever created in America. And so, the Mayflower eventually landed at what would be called Plymouth after their starting port, and marked by the now famous Plymouth Rock. Unfortunately for the new colonists, they landed in Plymouth in the dead of winter. The long journey and some delays in their departure meant that they landed in the New World much later than would be advised. It would have disastrous consequences. The winter would be referred to as the starving times. Nearly half of the Plymouth settlers would perish from poor nutrition, lack of housing, disease, and starvation. The region where the Pilgrims landed was already home to the Wampanoag people, who had been there for nearly 10,000 years, and these natives were familiar with Europeans. Just a few years before the Pilgrims landed, some sailors from England had landed in the area and captured some Pawtuxet tribe members and taken them as slaves. One of these men was known as Tisquantum, or Squanto. In a pretty miraculous set of circumstances, he managed to free himself and find his way back to North America as part of an English expedition. However, when Squanto returned, he found that his entire tribe had died from disease brought over from Europe. Another local Native American, named Samoset, was familiar with Europeans as well. He knew a little English, picked up from some English fishermen working in North America. Samoset supposedly introduced himself to the Pilgrims by walking into their settlement and asking for beer. Samoset then introduced the Pilgrims to Squanto, since Squanto spoke better English. Having seen how the Pilgrims had struggled to survive, Squanto taught them how to plant corn, hunt, fish, and feed themselves. He also helped broker relationships with other local natives. He introduced them to Massasoit, the chief of the local Pokanoket tribe, who the Pilgrims would eventually share Thanksgiving with. In a grim twist of fate, Squanto died from disease not long after helping the Pilgrims. In a world full of death, the Pilgrims wanted to celebrate their first harvest and give thanks to God for those Pilgrims who had survived the first winter. So in the fall of 1621, they decided to host a feast. It lasted 3 days and was attended by Chief Massasoit and the Pokanoket tribe. The tribe members brought fish and deer to the feast, while the Pilgrims brought things like their vegetables from their harvest and turkey, which they had hunted. It was this first Thanksgiving, a celebration of Pilgrims and Native Americans, that would be remembered by history. The first Thanksgiving would become a model for the modern-day Thanksgiving holiday. Of course, today's Thanksgiving celebrations celebrate the friendship of Pilgrims and natives. However, European settlers to North America wouldn't always have good relationships with the natives, and even the Pilgrims themselves wouldn't always live peacefully. That's a video for another day. Regardless, it was this instance of an early group of colonists surviving in the New World and getting along with Native Americans that is remembered and celebrated by modern-day Americans. So next time you sit down at Thanksgiving to eat your turkey, you can remember the story of those pilgrims and natives that brought you the Thanksgiving holiday. Have or know an amazing teacher? Want that teacher to be recognized? Apply to have them featured in an Innovative History video. That's right, we'll create a cartoon of your teacher and drop them directly into a video. Go to innovativehistory.com/teach and apply now. Thanks for watching Innovative History. Check out some of our other videos and subscribe to our channel.